right. Sue McDermott, happy to have you on the podcast. Thank you for taking some time. Could you just explain a little bit about your role at Addepar and how Addepar serves family offices?
Absolutely. So I am a program director on the partnerships team at Addepar. I've been with Addepar about 4 years. I know you know this, but I'll share with the audience that prior to Addepar, I spent about 20 years servicing largely single and multifamily offices from an operational and technology support perspective. Um, but joined Addepar 4 years ago. At the beginning of this year, I joined the partnerships team and I oversee a collection of partners that provide often augmented or auxiliary or ancillary services to family offices. Because, as you know, right, many are small businesses. They don't always have the resources in every corner that they need. So, whether that is technology selection, technology operation, right? Maybe a family office has the wealth and complexity that's well suited to a platform like Addepar, but maybe they have less than 5 employees and they really want some help with some of that everyday burden of data management. So the partners that I engage offer a range of technology and services that are well suited to family offices. And
Well,
I
great move by Addepar, by the way, with hiring you. I think it's a tremendous asset that they have with the family office space. Obviously, the key to, and we've talked about this with ecosystems, is that 1 plus 1 equals 3 with the ecosystem, right? But they need to be nurtured. They need to be
Yeah.
gotta help put together and help to find, because the clients on their own can't necessarily do it. So just kind of talk to me a little bit about
I
the.
think about it a little bit like restaurants in New York City, right? There are some really awesome places to go in New York City. But if you don't have guidance from a local or someone who's been there or done that,
Yeah.
you are just as likely to get a junky restaurant as you are to get a good
Then
one.
up at the Chili's in Times Square. Is that?
You got
Yeah.
it, right?
Yeah.
After hours of looking and considering all of the things and ending up at not a great place. And so I think the partner network is really important. And a lot of what I do is helping with discovery and matchmaking. I think one of the things um that I'll say, and I think family offices that do more of this and do better at this over the 25 years that I've been working with them. And that is, what are you really trying to solve?
Yeah.
Right? What is the operating model or those mechanisms that are going to make these things work to achieve that problem that solution you're trying to achieve? And so I do a lot of matchmaking with
Okay.
clients on they need, and we'll get into this, I'm sure, right? They need other technologies, right? Do I know tools that do X, Y, and Z? So that's a common conversation I'm having with clients. Or do I know a firm that offers services in this way that could help? And we'll get into a little bit more specifics. But my role at Addepar is really helping clients get in touch with the other aspects of the
The
ecosystem.
ecosystem concierge, is that?
Yeah, exactly,
There
Mark.
we go. I love that. Maybe that should be the new title. Um, so I mean, basically, family offices do have kind of two approaches, right? So, and we've had this conversation too about sometimes you get family offices that will kind of. I feel like it's one of these conversations or decisions that they need to make up front before they start evaluating vendors. The choice between, am I going to go best of breed or am I going to go all in one? So talk to me about both have pros and cons. Both have,
They both, right?
there isn't one right answer on that one, but there's when they should make that decision and how they should make that decision.
And my current philosophy, and admittedly, I probably have a little bit of bias because this is essentially what I do for a living. But as you know,
Having
spent
come from an all-in-one
I
for
had
a
come from an
long
all
time.
in one and believed in that dream for a very long time.
Yeah.
Um, the concepts are connected because those that really gravitate there, my advice would be, and I'm not trying to convince anybody right out of the gate necessarily, but open your mind to the possibility of, are you choosing that all in one because you have limited resources in some other aspect, right? That's the wrong reason to choose it,
Yeah.
right? And that's why I'm here to help you understand that having the best tools doesn't mean it has to be hard. Technology has come a long way, and the people that offer and service technology, our positioning and disposition on how do we help our clients get the best experience has come a long way, right? If I even just look at the evolution of Addepar and its client management muscle, how it operates, how it interacts with clients, how it has added roles to help with a consultative aid to clients on how to pick the best thing. So I firmly believe that in today's technology world, that the best of breed is the way to go because you can buy select tools that are purpose built that really will work together. When you and I started in this business, integration was, you and me swiveling our chair. Uh,
Right. Sneaker network.
Today, there are real integrations so you can buy excellent tools and not settle because you don't want to put the effort into managing them.
Yeah, it used to be a real science experiment for clients when they want to try to integrate systems. But obviously, I think you could see even with the commitment that Addepar has with the team and really a commitment to trying to foster those relationships and those integrations. It shows that when two vendors are willing to work together, they can alleviate that burden on the client. And it's also, I think, the choice gets made. The client can make the choice about what systems are best for them, or if you go with an all-in-one, then obviously you can't be best of everything. So that vendor is making specific choices within their roadmap about where they're going to put the resources on. So I think you have to
And as
match.
you know, with many of the all-in-ones, to your point, they can't be good at everything, right?
Yeah,
So most you know, have a focus, right? They're better at one thing than another.
right.
The the families that I see going down that decision, it's often somewhat of a one-sided decision from that group that, for example, if the all-in-one is really has invested in their accounting and the accounting team is making the decision
Yeah,
technology, that's when I see those choices being made. Whereas the buying state of mind has also evolved, Mark, right? And now, because technology has evolved, your accounting team and your investment team really can work together a little bit more seamlessly and not like, throwing data over the fence.
right. I think that's a good point. I think that a lot of those all-in-ones are GL based, partnership accounting kind of being that core secret sauce, right? So if the accounting finance function is driving the buying decision, then that they'll tend to lean that way. With the investment team driving, then they'll tend to lean a different way. But I think,
And maybe this is a segue, or we'll talk a little bit about this later. But those who have hit the wall with some of those DIY tools,
yeah.
um, if it's time to move off of QuickBooks or it's time to get out of Excel.
Talk to me a little bit about why are so many family offices so dependent upon Excel and QuickBooks, and what should they be thinking about in terms of decoupling from that retail, dependency.
Well, I mean, to answer the first question, why are they so dependent on it, right? And that is for a few reasons. A, it's inexpensive.
It's cheap. It's quick to
And
set up.
B, somewhat really flexible. I won't say infinitely flexible, but with ownership structures, right? LPs and LLCs are the most creative instruments in the US economic system, right? A lawyer can write anything in there.
Yeah.
So you do need to be nimble. And so that when you've got something like Excel where I can write any formula based on anything I want, it's a really easy route to take when you've got really smart people in your family office who know how to do that. Now, the problem is when that smart person doesn't want to do it anymore,
Yeah.
um, and whether or not there's a smooth transition, right? So key man dependency, reliability, consistency, uh,
Auditability.
those those things are lost on Excel and QuickBooks. But it is the easy answer because it's cheap and my bookkeeper knows how to make it work.
Yeah, I think Excel in particular is never going to go away, but just due to that flexibility, that last mile, sometimes you just need some reporting. Maybe it's a one-off, maybe it's a consistent type of thing that you need to do that
Some
really.
unique calculation that you guys
Right.
come up with to measure something. So I agree. QuickBooks is a different story, right? You get beyond 10 or 12 entities, and that the lack of consolidation really starts to become a burden. And an added burden that if you want consistency in your chart of accounts, that you have to force that and reconcile it or so those are the reasons why they hit a wall and need to get off. Those are the same reasons, at least for us, probably for you, why we're not writing an integration.
Right. Right. Yeah,
Because
I
the
think it is
integration is
that
more costly than the platform itself
that flexibility is great until you need to consolidate across entities, and then
until you
you
want to be
realize.
consistent. Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and then, human capital cost, your total cost of ownership is actually a lot higher than, what it is for an inexpensive software product, and next thing you know, you got, well, like you said, key man risk, turnover, just because of the quality of the work that you're subjecting your staff to with, this kind of maturation around just trying to get everything to line up. It just becomes kind of this spiraling, and the threshold's really low. Like you said, like it's like 10 or 12 entities, and family offices. There's a lot of entities. Even the smallest ones are
Right.
have a lot more than that.
I
So
think the other thing is that when you get to tools, more sophisticated tools are going to offer more in the way of scalable, repeatable, reliable workflow, right?
right,
Chances are, if you're living on Excel and QuickBooks, you got a binder, I hope, or maybe you don't, but a binder of like manual processes of, well, what do I do when? And then I click this button, and then, when software could really alleviate a lot of that and eliminate risk.
right, right. Maybe you lose some of that flexibility, but you gain that consistency. You gain, it's going to be the same way every single time. So regardless of who does it, I think is key. So, what are some of the other common mistakes that you see family offices making when it comes to technology?
Along that same line, and one of my first recommendations is don't do it alone. And I'm not saying you have to, have consultants for every leg of the way,
Yeah,
but you really need to do a self assessment. We all have these internal like comfort and bias on how we work and operate. And when you're making this leap right? You're deciding to implement technology for a reason. You have these goals, you're building for the future, you want scalability, you want growth. You really need to make sure that your people are looking internally at the processes, right? Kind of what are you really trying to achieve at the end? And then kind of build backwards and not try to buy a new tool and plug it into how you
Right.
operate today. That is
Right.
the biggest mistake.
It's good. This is the way we always done it, right? That mindset, and then buy new technology and just keep on doing the same thing, right?
Even even Mark on the investments and the GL piece, right? Talking about coming back to our theme of best in breed and integration. These tools are good at what they do. Well, don't try to rewrite an investment book of record into QuickBooks. Right.
Right.
I mean, firms have spent tens and millions of dollars and not achieved that. It's a little bit of an exercise in futility. I understand that the information and the data that is required, but learn how to leverage those platforms for what they're meant for and what they're good at, and you're going to end up at a better endpoint and product.
I would agree that I do think sometimes there is a little over reliance on what I'd call retail software that is just not meant to be, multi-entity, doesn't have the controls in place. I think you look at obviously multi-entity general ledger for consolidations, but also, bill pay is another one of those areas, right? Where it doesn't have, the retail solutions aren't meant for, somebody paying bills on behalf of somebody else, segregation of duties, the person entering the bills and the person that's approving it. Those concepts aren't built into those products, and you see that one is they're cheap, but two they're quick to get up. I think that's part of it, right? It's not necessarily a cost mindset, because in the long run, I think it ends up costing them more money with the total cost of ownership. But they stand it up real quick, and then
Well,
you
and
know,
they're fairly easy to use because they
yeah,
have limited feature set. And that goes back to don't be afraid to invest in learning, having your people learn how to use the tools that are appropriate. Again, don't settle for something because you're
as you
worried
know it, yeah.
because right, right.
What are the trends that you're seeing that are really kind of impacting family offices now? What is some of the trends that you're seeing that are going to impact family offices, a year, 18, 24 months from now?
Yeah. And probably stating the obvious on some of this, but the last 5 years, and certainly the pandemic was a forcing function for a lot of firms to invest in technology or to go to the cloud to facilitate
Yeah.
remote or gore, right? All those things. So there's been a focus and a conversation about technology, which then opens the door to being a little bit more creative than I need my team to be able to work from home. Okay, now what? Right? It kind of ripped the band-aid off
Yeah.
for many to say, I do want to invest in this best of breed. There are some great tools out there. I think I could make my clients' experience better and the life of my professionals better. So there's been an openness, I think, to technology. Definitely an investment, I think, on the side of the technology firms like Addepar. I mean, our investment in tech innovation just blows my mind. The trends are, for me, clients taking that next step and not being as afraid, right? Okay, I've got an investment platform. I've got Addepar and I've got a GL. I need some of these other things.
Yeah.
And I know they're feasible to make my environment whole. Some of those are document management or CRM or trust and estate planning. The more investment heavy shops are looking at risk tools that go beyond what Addepar currently can do. I think the other stating of the obvious is that we've all seen the growth in firms doing alternative data management,
Yeah.
and automating that, right? I mean, 20 years ago, I was managing a team of anywhere from 5 to 8 people who were,
Yeah.
like, collecting statements, reading them, typing in numbers.
Persistent problem, no solution in the marketplace. Now you're seeing multiple options, which is fantastic.
Correct, correct. So, um, that has been such a problem for the ultra wealthy for so long that it it really is a leapfrog, right? It's gonna unlock so much to alleviate the burden of resources spent on those activities. Couple that with natural language enhancements, right? I mean, to be able to have family members even who know nothing about the process of investing or the language that they're supposed to use the, to enable them to ask questions and get information about their portfolio without having to take human resource from the office to answer that question. Now, we don't believe in, AI in every aspect, but some of these elevated experiences through natural language, I think are going to make a big difference.
Yeah,
It's going to do even more to democratizing the information and making it available to everybody.
I do think AI is going to have a big impact, but not in the kind of the hype up way that gets talked
Agreed.
about, right? That I think you look at alternative investments in particular. I think AI is really good at being able to unlock unstructured data, information that's in documents, right? So that's I don't know what it is. I think I've seen some number like 90% of the information in the world or 95% of the information in the world is like unstructured, right? And certainly alternatives like never really progressed beyond 1995. It went from a fax to a PDF and it still stayed
Right.
locked up,
Right.
right?
Right.
So I think the ability like OCR never worked, but AI actually kind of does work in that area. So now you see some real options. The ability to summarize and the quickly to get up to speed on really complex documents, subscription agreements, trust agreements, estate agreements, right?
Right.
You
And
bring
not
on a new
have
person,
so many, it's such a time suck to deal with those.
right? To have a lawyer read through that for hours where you could kind of get a summary within, literally
I
minutes.
mean, it as an example, right? We use a tool here that records all of our calls.
Yeah. And does a pretty good job, right? The summaries aren't bad.
The notes are amazing. And in
Yeah.
the last even 6 to 12 months, the improvement of the quality of those notes, I have found it really does save time. I don't, I still have my old fashioned notebook for the things that I really want to, solidify, but I don't have to take notes in the same way that I used to
Right.
because I actually trust the the mechanism that's recording and translating.
I do get a little worried though. I feel like there was such a push. I mean, finally, the family offices pushed off to the cloud because of the pandemic and got up there. Their major systems are in the cloud. I do get worried that they're going to take their pedal, the foot off the gas a little bit. Be like, "Phew, okay, that's done. Got to settle back in their own ways. Where I think this opportunity kind of to articulate around rounding out that ecosystem. Okay, you have those major systems up in the cloud. Can you get them to talk to each other better? Can you get those auxiliary systems? Can you get the canoe, the arch? Can you get the risk planning, those type of things plugged into these platforms and really getting everything working together is really kind of I hope they continue to evolve on that.
And I agree, and it's not magic, right? It's not as easy as plug and play. And I'll go
Yeah.
back to my don't do it alone, right? There are people that do this for a living. Being a little thoughtful around knowing what you don't know, uh,
Right.
and getting the right configuration in place can be a game changer.
Helping help can help. I know that sometimes that cost can look expensive, but a few things are more expensive than a failed implementation, right? So
Correct.
and they
Exactly right.
I think they can save a lot of time on that. And a lot of times these failed implementations aren't sometimes it's the vendor's fault, but a lot of times they're not, right? That it's
It's often, right, a combination of misunderstanding,
yeah,
or
resource alignment,
yes, data not in the shape that
right?
he thought it was, right? No one goes into an implementation, you know, everyone goes in it with the highest hopes.
Let's talk a little bit about change management. Obviously, I think one of the things we're talking about is get a help, get a guide, have somebody walk you through that process. You
Yeah.
don't know what you don't know. You don't go through that process. That many cycles. A family office will go through that. What are some other things that family offices can do to help with change management?
Lean on your vendors, right? Addepar has people on the client management team and others to help you with that. I think surprisingly, as small of a community as family office is, not enough of them talk to each other about how are you doing that? And so your vendor can help you make those connections. Hey, do you have other clients that look like me? Have they solved this problem? So I think ask questions, talk to the community. Most of your software and or services providers would be happy to make connections or give you ideas or be involved in the discussion with you.
Yeah. Most are willing to have that initial conversation and to share some thoughts, some inputs.
Right.
It's a
Hey, I
sharing
know
community.
somebody worth talking to, right? Before
Yeah.
you spend money on consultants, tap your own network.
I will caution the one thing that sometimes you'll see though is that you'll run across somebody and they'll be like, "Yeah, look at that tamarack and eating and like three things that are like an
Oh
apple,
my.
a rhinoceros, and like a piece of cheese." And you're like, I don't know how you got that list, but because they're talking about family offices or friends of theirs that have totally different operational requirements, right? So I think talking to your peers is great, but sometimes talking to your friends and family, and you can end up with a, you know,
Well, right, because then that ends up being a bit of an unstructured conversation.
yeah,
And so that's why, I mean, as a preliminary, absolutely kind of know the landscape, but it's worth at some point hiring a professional, even just to make the plan, even if you don't engage them to execute a plan with you. So that because right, conversations in your private network aren't governed by, okay, that's good. Let's get to the next agenda item. Or what about this? Or yeah.
yeah. I think having a plan, I do. And we caution, firms getting vendors involved a little too early, like, because they can show great and and then you be like, it can start, oh, the shiny object syndrome, right? Versus backing up, figuring out like more strategically, what are the problems that I'm trying to solve? What are my major pain points that
Yeah,
I
your
need to
first
address
step needs
now
to
in the
be
future?
introspective.
Develop that roadmap and prioritize those kind of projects. And that, again, that's where consultants can really, really help you out, as well as guiding you through that selection process. I think is another great area where a consultant can kind of come in and
It's
save you a lot
daunting,
of time.
right? If you don't look at this stuff every day and they can all sort of say some of the same things, but
I mean, the good news is that there's more family office specific options available. I mean, but the bad news is there's more family office options available, right? So
yeah.
it creates that buyer confusion a little bit. So, um,
And that leads right back to excuse me, why some go with the all in one? Because
yeah,
it's overwhelming, Mark.
it's there is a choice for that. It's one throat to choke, one vendor to manage, but it should be one of those things that's strategically decided up front versus,
Agreed.
oh, I'm looking at Addepar and I'm looking
Yeah,
at
you're
Archway. Like
feeding
you
your
shouldn't be
two
looking at
cats
those
the
two
wrong way.
together, right? You should
Yeah.
look at Archway versus Eaton. You should be looking, it's a different
Right.
evaluation process you should go through. So it is an exciting time though for family offices and family office technology. I mean, you and I have seen it from the beginning where there was few to no options available, and now there's really a whole host of them. So it's great. Um, so this conversation's been great. I want to just kind of end it up on a personal note. We'll talk about concert experience. It's summertime, right? What's been what's you seen any good shows this summer? What's been one of your best concert
I
experiences?
have not seen any this summer, but one of the concerts that I enjoyed the most was last summer. I took my 2 teenage sons to see Steely Dan and the Eagles.
Nice. They played the
And
bar. That sounds
and
great.
and it was so great, and the boys appreciated it and enjoyed it and knew the music, so it it was a great bonding moment as well
There
as
you
a
go. That's awesome. I love that.
How
That's
about
a
you?
good
What's
good
your
level up.
concert experience?
My best one was like last summer we went out and I'd highly recommend it. If you haven't been to Red Rocks, you got to go to Red Rocks. It's a near religious experience. It's like if you're a football fan, like going to Lambeau kind of thing,
Right,
right? Like it's
right.
one of those things. So we saw Noah Khan at Red Rocks. It's one of those things, right venue, right artist, right time. So a lot of artists will go through like he just played at Fenway. Fenway's 39,000 and Red Rocks is like 9,000. So you won't be playing at Red Rocks anytime, soon. So it was a nice thing, but it
That's
is the
awesome.
like the venue's amazing, the acoustics are amazing, the artist is so excited to be there. He brought his mom, we're excited, he's excited, everybody's excited, so I highly recommend taking a look at they have really eclectic lineup every year, but if you find an artist you really like, go see him at Red Rocks. We can
That's a great recommendation. I gotta put that on my bucket list.
yeah. So what do you think? Eagles at the Sphere? Or you gotta go check that one out?
Actually, I wanna see The Dead and Company at the Sphere.
I know. I heard great things about that. That'd be super fun.
That would be fun.
Yeah, anyways, all right. As always, a great
Thank you, Mark.
conversation.
Always a pleasure
Appreciate the
chatting with
time.
you.